I get so many questions about how I created my Oracle deck, and I'm thrilled to invite Anna and Heath here on video to share with you some answers because Anna was instrumental behind the scenes in helping me create my deck, Messenger of Spirit Oracle. And I know that both of these wonderful individuals bring so much to the table. You definitely want to stay tuned because we're going to be talking about what it takes to create an Oracle deck, answering some of the questions about the know-how, and also who is best to create an Oracle deck. So, Anna, could you introduce yourself and let everybody know what you do?
Thank you so much, Whitney. First of all, for having us. I'm really excited to be here with you and Heath today and share more about the magic of making Oracle decks or card decks in general. And so I'll try to keep my introduction somewhat short, but I really started working with Oracle cards when I had a spiritual awakening about a year after starting my first business. And that was kind of my transition from corporate to spiritual work. And at first, I was working with other authors' decks, but I also had a creative background and I always really enjoyed writing and making things, art and all those things. And so I pretty quickly had the idea of making my own Oracle deck, my own first deck, and just as a tool to share with people, or through which to share my wisdom with people and my, yeah, just whatever wanted to come through at the time. And so one thing led to the next. I created my own first Oracle deck, and then I started getting a lot of questions from people who were curious about making their decks. In 2019, I was in the middle of a big transition, and I felt like I needed to transition from the coaching world to doing more creative work again. And that's when I started supporting people like you, Whitney, entrepreneurs on their journey of making their card decks with done for you services at the time. So everything done in-house pretty much. The art, the design, editing, and then helping you get it printed and all those things. And so I did that for quite a few years. And then I started having this idea that I wanted to create something in between the DIY and the done for you work. And I knew that I didn't want to do it on my own, or it wasn't supposed to be something I was going to do on my own, but I didn't yet know who I was going to do it with. And then about half a year later, he just randomly reached out to me and we started talking, and he had this dream of helping others create Oracle decks or card decks in general. And so yeah, we started talking, and then we started our collaboration. And yeah, I'm really excited about what we've created together. So now I'm gonna pass the mic to Heath.
Thanks, Anna. Actually, it was it was quite a magical connection because I've had a lot of really interesting, direct, kind of intuitive messages come to me through when I quiet myself down and slow down and get into like Vipassana meditations. And there's been some really huge shifts in my life from doing that. And one of the first ones was the first message I got about creating a deck, and I didn't even really know what that meant at the time. It was like, you're going to create an affirmation deck. I was like, okay, I have no idea how to do this. No, not even writing affirmations, so, but then years later after that, it was another message that was like, yeah, you're going to create this community with somebody. And it was just like, get on and search for this thing and you'll find this person. And it was February 2/22/22, February 22nd, 2022. I've always followed twos in my life. And so like we got connected right there in that time. And it's just sort of flown from there. So it was a magical connection. Yeah, I made an affirmation deck in 2018. I launched it on Kickstarter. Um, no real experience there. I was kind of coming through really big, massive personal transitions, but there were some people that showed up and supported it, and it raised like $8,000 or $9,000, and I got a lot of momentum from that just to be putting more and more good into the world. And then I made a second version of the deck with a goal in mind to like do another Kickstarter, but I wasn't expecting it to take off with the success that it did. So that campaign ended up raising about $170,000 on Kickstarter, which was nuts. And my goal was like 6,000 or something to print it. And I thought my biggest goal in my heart was like if I could get to 20,000, like maybe double the first campaign. And I did this big sound bath on the beach in um, Mexico with my now wife, Ashley. And I was real stressed leading up to it, and I just like let it all go. And was like, you know what? Whatever's gonna happen is just gonna happen. And just let it all go on that beach. And then it just started, yeah, the campaign just went wild. And that really helped my brand kind of explode into the world a little bit. And I made a third version of that deck, and then I went into making an animal spirit deck called the Beasties Oracle. And I'm in the process of really close to releasing a children's affirmation deck now. And I'm working on several other decks actually, but one of them is a deck where I'm dissecting all these ancient texts. So in that process and over those years, I've had such a blessed journey to be able to connect with awesome people like Anna and all these other Oracle creators and tarot creators. And it's the same thing that you all are experiencing where if you make it, it's not like books as to where, there's a lot of resources to kind of easily figure out how to do print on demand books, but card decks is much more intricate. It's much more intense. And we see so much of that resistance wall hit people early in the process and then just give up and leave. And I don't know what it was in me to make me see it through. There was a lot of magical things that had to happen in line synchronistically for me to carry through that first process. But Anna, our entire goal has been coming together is like, well, we can't individually or even just us two together create enough decks to like put goodness into the world at a scale that wouldn't be confined to just like what's coming through us. There's so many creative and brilliant magical people in the world that can bring a channel through or have incredible art skills or writing skills or have an oracle or they're really into tarot but don't have any idea how to actually put that into form. And we do. And our skill sets kind of really complement each other. Mine being a lot of experience with crowdfunding and raising money to print decks, and Anna's being, in that realm of working with so many different amazing people creating all these different types of decks and shapes and sizes. So it just fit really well synchronistically. And um, yeah, it's kind of how we're here. It just birthed from an idea into a concept and with the goal being let's get as much good messaging and energy into the world as possible because we need it.
I like that a lot, especially because you followed your intuition. I love how you got that message, Heath, and then he reached
Yeah.
out, saw the synchronicities with the numbers, and there it is. And I know a lot of people who are watching right now really do the same thing, listening to those nuances from spirit. And so it's really inspiring to hear that story of finding that right collaboration, which is really great. And I love that you're creating a children's deck too, because that needs to be birthed out into the world. So that's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. It's fun. The cards are really big and they're like 7 by 7 inches and they're like real pieces of art. So I think it's something that I would have loved to have had as a child.
Me too. And this really speaks to the differences of decks as well. You were just talking about the cards are really large, and so many people have different ideas of what to create. And I think as a creator, when you start looking for resources and you know nothing about how to create an Oracle deck, it is so overwhelming with all the options and lack of options when you're trying to find resources. And you just want somebody to help simplify that for you, which I know that's what I really needed. But I did want to ask you, who do you feel are your ideal clients to work with because there's such a diverse market out there? And do you also help people with tarot decks as well? So whoever wants to answer.
So yes, first of all, we do help creators design all sorts of different decks. So we're more open. When I worked with Whitney, I was really focusing on the Oracle creator market. But I mean, tarot creators are a really similar market. And most of the people in our community are in one of those two categories, I would say. We have quite a few tarot deck creators. Most of them are artists, and yeah, they're just, really brilliant. Creating a tarot deck is is kind of a whole other ball game because it's just so complex and it's way more cards than an Oracle deck. But I'd say a lot of the process is the same as well. So I'd say the majority would be Oracle and tarot creators, and we're totally open to working with, anyone who might even want to create a game or an educational deck. So far,
There's a few
I'd
like
say.
nonprofit focused decks.
But I'd say, yeah, a lot of people in our community are artists and creatives, and then we have the intuitive business owners who are looking to create a vehicle to, share their message with the world, kind of what you did with your deck, Whitney, and everything in between. So there's that. And I would say most of the people that start working with us, they just have this knowing that they're meant to create something, or they've already had the dream of creating a card deck, whether it's an Oracle deck or a tarot deck, for quite a long time. And they're really just looking for, well, I guess on one hand, like you said, Whitney, for someone to really break the process down for them, because it is a really complex process. And if you're just getting started, you might not even know what you're getting yourself into. We have quite a few people coming into our community, and they're, initially they think, okay, well, this is kind of what it's going to look like. But when they come in, they're surprised at like how much support there actually is in there with all the things that they didn't even know they needed to do. Because one thing is, developing the idea and then designing the deck, writing the content, the creative part, and then publishing it, printing it, and then launching, and the whole business aspect of it is a whole other thing. So I'm really glad we're able to come together in this way. I think Heath and I complement each other in a lot of ways, because we've approached the journey from different angles, and Heath has a lot of experience in the e-commerce realm as well, and like selling on Amazon and Shopify and all those marketplaces, and launching on Kickstarter was really helpful for me to learn from Heath as well. And that's definitely one thing that we really enjoy as well. We have a lot of people now in our community who really get excited about the idea of launching something on Kickstarter, and we guide them through the process, and it's really fun. I launched my most recent deck last year, my first Kickstarter, and I'd say a big part of my success was learning from Heath about all the ways to, you know, prepare ahead of time and then set it up for success. And I also did a lot better than I expected. I made almost 22,000 Canadian with that launch, which is like about, yeah, 2.5 times my goal. So
It sounds like you help a lot of different people with different concepts. And I think what's really helpful for everybody to hear is that there's not a one size fits all. You can come in with different ideas, different number of cards in your deck, different sizes, the type of how you're using the cards, whatever you call that technically, I'm not sure. But I know that Anna, when I worked with you, it was like, do you want it matte? Do you want it glossy? Are we having metallic edges? So it's beautiful because it sounds like anybody can have an idea and come to you both, and you can help make that a reality for them, which that's where I really struggled. I actually started my idea for my card deck back in 2011 or 12, and I would have no idea what I was doing, but I had the concept, and I even started painting some of the cards. And I thought, okay, well, then I'll take a really high quality photo. And anyway, that did not work out for me. So it took me like, 10 years to finally get that off the ground. And I think that working with you both is just a fast track for people where they can find all the answers that they really need because I didn't know all were involved. And when I sat down to even think about some of the technical aspects, I got really overwhelmed and it just makes you want to quit because like I don't know what's going on. And then where do I find it for, where do I find anybody to print it? And how am I going to do the technical measurements and that kind of stuff? So it sounds like that's an important component that you help people with. I know you did help me with all of that, but I did want to ask you, do you see any specific or what are the common challenges that people come to you with that might be different than what I just shared?
I'll add on because this one kind of rolls into the previous statement too, is I think
Okay.
overall the biggest roadblock is internal resistance. So it's not even something with logistically or technically, it's that is the lotus flower ready to open or not? And I think resistance is the enemy of creation. It's the death of creation, and creation has the power to completely eliminate and destroy resistance. And so our goal is if you're coming into the container, you're going to be with people who are at all different phases, some with just the idea and haven't started and haven't gotten over that initial form of like putting it into action resistance, and others who have been working on it for a long period of time because maybe like Mona's in there, she's hand cutting lino cut tarot cards, which takes forever. But imagine the beauty and the magic that is going to be infused in those cards when it's done. Um, and then others who come in and go like really quick through the process and like launch a Kickstarter. And it's like, whoa, like we had um, someone come in, her name's Joy, and it was like really awesome to see how fast she came in. She's a somatic practitioner, brought her concepts of her teachings in and pushed it through. But every single one of them and everybody else in the group, and including Anna and I, both know that if you cannot overcome that internal resistance, then you won't get to any stage there. So that's the biggest roadblock, and I think that that can be diffused just by coming in because that's the container. Like we're going to be there, and I find that by surrounding yourself with others who are like showing up and like, hey, sometimes this is a little bit effed up. Like I fell off track for 2 months. It's fine, but like we have a very loving and there's tears a lot in our calls, which is interesting. It's like beautiful. There's all these things that you wouldn't necessarily think were going to happen. So that's the biggest one. I think also um, a huge one is the printing and manufacturing side of it. It's okay, maybe I have art or I have words and it makes sense in my head how I can put those together and make it into something on a computer, whether I'm using another artist or I'm doing it in Canva or whatever it might be. Um, but then when it comes to like, whoa, well, how do I get samples printed or how do I even get quotes for what this is going to cost or what are the different styles and how do I do the box? How do you make a box design package? Like there's those things start to get really into the, oh, I'm really, really glad that I have help with this. And then if you're going with a bigger print run, like 500 decks or so, then you're likely printing overseas, which there's a whole deal with managing relationships overseas and importing the decks, making sure that they're getting to you and that the pricing's good and that the quality's good. And then after that, I mean, I don't think many people come in initially and are like, my biggest problem is selling this yet. But eventually you get to a point where it's like, okay, now how do I get this in the world? Um, and we've been focusing more on, well, the first step is how can maybe we can raise enough money for you to print the deck without it costing you money through a crowdfunding campaign. Um, or if you're an author, an existing life coach, for example, or someone who has a platform who's already teaching, or an oracle, or you're doing tarot readings on YouTube because you have a following there. How do we take that platform and then use the momentum to drive that through the creation process of the card deck and then getting out into the worlds and in more people's hands? So um, I think the imposter syndrome of I don't have an audience and how do I get started are the two biggest ones that keep you from starting. But the momentum of getting in there and actually being with other people who are doing it alongside you, I think it that creation aspect destroys all of that resistance and hesitation. Can you think of any other ones that are big, Anna? You've probably worked directly more with people than I have.
Yeah, I think you pretty much covered the most important things. And I think it is important to highlight the difference too between, done for you. I think it's a lot more about, simplifying the process and just making it easier, and we're just going to get it done. And there might be some, more personal support as well. And I do enjoy that. I've always enjoyed, having that personal connection with the people I've worked with too. But the community really adds a whole other level where you're in this container with other people who are on the same journey. And I feel it adds so much value, and it really, yeah, it just brings people together in a whole new way. We support each other, um, like we keep each other motivated, or we celebrate each other. Like even that alone is so important. And just knowing that whenever you have a question, there's somebody there who can give you an answer, and it's either Heath and I, or sometimes others will chime in as well, and having that feedback from different kinds of people from different areas of expertise as well, I think is really valuable. Yeah, I'm just really glad that we have the community. I feel it's such a beautiful space. Like every call we have with our community, I just feel so lit up because there's so much inspiration, I think, that comes from just even sharing what we're creating, and yeah, just being with each other through all the challenges that come up, and having the mentorship around that as well.
I agree. Whenever you're in a community where there's a certain goal or the same goal, it's definitely creates that momentum because people get you, they understand. And while you may have completely separate ideas, it's still in the same kind of arena of what you're trying to strive towards. And a lot of times creators don't have, their family members or their friends still on that same journey. And so it can feel a little lonely. So it is nice to have that community aspect. But I did want to ask you if you recommend that when people find you, do they need to just have a general concept of what they want to create, or should they have a little bit more like their idea honed in to, okay, I want to have X amount of cards, or I know what I want to put on each card. So what would you recommend for those watching and they know they want to create something, but when they come to you, where would you say a good place to start would be with that?
I think it really depends on the level of support that someone signs up for. If it's for a done for you project, then we need to have a clear idea, and we need to have the outline of what exactly we're going to create, so we can create a package for you. So it helps to speed the process up. But for someone who comes into the mastermind, having an idea of what you want to create, maybe the topic or a rough idea of what you're creating, I think that's going to be enough. And also just really knowing, that you are meant to create this, and feeling that call from your soul. So it's not just, oh, this could be fun to create, but I'm not really sure. But like, if you really feel, okay, I am meant to create a card deck, even if I don't know exactly yet what it's going to look like, we do guide you through the process of visioning and narrowing down those details. And that's a really important part in the beginning, where some people won't even really know all the details that they actually need to know to put this into something practical that we can then go and create. So that is not really a problem. And yeah, when I worked with Whitney, I think the way we did this, we just fast tracked it on our first call together on a sales call. Well, I'll ask you all the things that I need to know so that we can create something practical with it. But in the mastermind, yeah, there's space to, go through that process. Maybe some people might do this in a day, and some people might need a month for it, but just, you get all the guidance you need to start creating, and then, go through it somewhat efficiently as well, along with like all the inner work that comes with it too.
Thank you for that. Heath, do you have anything to add to that?
My only prerequisite for the community is, as Anna's talking, that that internal knowing the seriousness of, hey, maybe it's really scary for you. There's something there that's like, I have to do this. And if I don't do this, I'm going to regret it. And like, we know that as we go through life and get older, the only things that I ever truly regret are the times that I didn't ask, or the times that I didn't speak up, or the times that I didn't make the decision to do the thing that I was really interested in or that I knew that I needed to do, because those don't go away. 10 years later, I'll still be sitting there like, still reach out to that person. I should still do this. I at least should find out like what is there. And sometimes I do and nothing comes of it, but I at least explored it and it goes away, or it transforms into something new and creates more space. But that's really it. It's being aligned with your, it could be your inner child, your your soul, your the God within you. You can call it, whatever you prefer, but listening to that when you come, and then answering that call, and knowing that you don't have to have any of the answers, but just by being true to your own heart center in that, you're going to get the help that you need. And as long as you keep showing up for yourself, you don't have to think about how long it's going to take or how many things you're going to have to do. Just trust the process and you'll have the support to do it. And I think that's the most important thing for me. And then just, if you follow that path, then you're likely creating something that's putting good into the world. And that's another pillar. We want to be putting good energy into our creation so that it puts good energy into the world. And so if you're having a really negative relationship with your creative process, that can really rub off on other people negatively. It can affect the container, the energy. It can it can be infused in your product that can be sent out into the world and actually not help people at all. So we're really careful about that too. Doesn't mean that you can't be scared, because we're all scared. I want to make a discernment there. Being scared is not negative, and having shadow thoughts is not negative, and having self-sabotaging thoughts is not negative. I am a self-sabotaging king. I destroy myself constantly, but I think it's also part of the motivation of why I keep going and doing more and more things, because I'm not sitting still with that. But that's our ideal container.
Thank you. It's interesting because when I was starting to create my Oracle deck, the process, once I realized I had support, it was really cathartic. And I feel like so many watching have a creative idea and they need to express it. And I love what you said about the only regret is not reaching out, not exploring that possibility as well. Because once you know that you've got everything that you need to manifest this into a reality, it feels like things flow, like, oh, I have relief and I can get it out into the world. And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck when they're in that place where they know they have something. And to what you've said in the past, yes, imposter syndrome, but when they get past it, there's this technical piece of it, like, oh my gosh. And it's like first give yourself permission to just do it, to just reach out, to just start the process. And I agree, that's a really important component. So we've talked about some of the places that your clients get stuck with, but now I'm going to flip it back and turn it on you both. So what lessons have you learned on your own journeys? And because when I know you're learning lessons, you're in a better place to help people learn that lesson as well. So what comes up for you both? Anna, I'll start with you. What lesson may have you have learned that you can help other people with through this journey and this process?
Oh my God. I think there's a lot of things. I don't know where to start. Um, I feel like for me it's overall been a very intuitive process. It's been a lot of exploring and just following my natural creativity, and it's always been a natural part of my journey. So I would say, even though in the beginning there was a lot that I needed to figure out, like a lot of technical details, how do I get it printed? That was like the first thing I started researching and kind of exploring some options there, and then working from there. And it's been a long, long journey of evolution and like personal evolution and learning so many more things, especially when working with clients as well. Like every new project was an opportunity to learn something new, whether it was connected to manufacturing or creating a new style of art, or then also when I started hiring other team members to support me with the projects, like all of that. But I think kind of looking back when I first got started, one really big shift that I see like now versus back then is I feel like I'm a lot more trusting of the process. I think back then I had a tendency to just spend hours and hours and hours researching rather than getting into action. And there's a lot of internal resistance. And I think just even, learning all the tools and the things, the way the process works, it starts to become more part of who you are, and it makes everything else easier. Yeah, I think if there's one major lesson for me, I think that would have been the biggest one. There's a time for research, but also like don't let it hold you back. Don't get stuck there. Because I feel like I back then I missed out on a lot of opportunities because I was so stuck and like just mentally trying to figure things out, and I would have moved more quickly if I had, yeah, just had the courage to move a little bit more, but without as much research. But with that being said, I didn't have the support. There's nobody else doing it at the time. And so I mean, there was definitely some people creating card decks, but I was probably a pioneer in a lot of ways, especially with creating Oracle decks. So I didn't really have anyone to learn from. And I think that's also, yeah, part of the gift that we're offering to the people we work with now. I think Heath and I both went through so much learning on our own and research and figuring it out, not having anyone to really teach the process to us, and having that opportunity, I think, can just make it a lot easier.
I would have definitely probably found a mentor if I could have gone back. Not necessarily for the technical aspects of card creation, but for keeping myself centered in not setting expectation of what things can be. Because for me, it was an interesting path because of that Kickstarter that did had so much success. I also had a business partner who kind of did stuff behind the scenes, just like things that I didn't like doing, accounting, books, and stuff like that. And he's a good friend of mine. We'd worked together before on things. But when we saw that success, it became this like, oh, now there's an expectation to perform just as much. Like, okay, there was a lot of decks that went out there. How do we keep that momentum and grow it and get bigger and bigger? And the inner child and the spirit side of me was like, I can flow with this because it's going to get more of this goodness into the world. It's going to help more people. But there was another side of me that was like, as the ideas evolved in the marketing phase, and became things like this. I'm not speaking, I don't want to speak negatively about my business partner. He just thinks very different than I. His perception was like, we need to be bigger, faster, sell more, this, and this. And I started to feel myself getting consumed by that energy. And instead of being someone who was leading with my creativity, I became somebody who is performing a role for an ideal or an expectation that wasn't actually pure within myself. And that led to sending way more emails than needing, running ads, doing all these, it was just like this a couple years of just like building out this marketing system to get more products in the world, but I also completely stopped creating and I felt a lot more empty and there really wasn't, yeah, we're selling a lot more, but I wasn't feeling like supported or nourished more myself. And so I came to a huge realization that the magic in all of this is just that willingness to show up every day if you can. I know schedules are different. Now that I've had a child, I'm like struggling with that line, but as often as you possibly can, committing to yourself and just showing up and being in that creative process and letting the muse flow through, even if you're just staring at a piece of paper and not doing things like, oh, I'm going to do 2 more hours of research on how to start this thing. Um, and trusting in that if you authentically network with people and you talk about the thing that you're creating with other people, and you do it from a place of just pure passion and love instead of, I need you to hear me, or I need you to listen to me because I need your attention. I need to know that you're going to want the thing I'm making. I need to get responses to my emails. I need to get likes on my social post. All of those things are just built off of an expectation that isn't, it's just all an illusion. And that's the energy that you'll put out if you do that. So as I come back to my heart center and I stop looking at, I need to be doing this, or I need this kind of interaction or reflection from the world back to me, I find that pure happiness and stress-free creation returns to me. And that's where I make connections like with Anna or others that come in the group, or we're sitting here talking now, and you have the conversations. It's kind of like sitting around a fire and staring each other in the eyes and just saying like, hey, I'm here creating next to you and I love you and this world is incredible. And if we're not doing it for the joy and the heart center of like what it means to us personally, it's never going to be successful in a business aspect or be able to go into the world and actually help people. So what's the point? What's the point of being miserable, chasing something that isn't real there? So that's the biggest lesson I've learned, I think, is the most simple way that you can show up for yourself just to be there in the process is the path that's going to lead to everything else. You don't have to know anything more than that. You don't have to plan 2 years ahead, 6 months ahead. You don't have to have a launch plan 7 months from now. Like just focus on that next card and then the next card. And then we get to the box eventually, and then it goes from there. So I think, yeah, simplicity is the answer. Totally the answer.
It's great to hear where you both have been. And those are some lessons I feel like everybody watching can really relate to. Feeling like, oh, I have to do this thing before I start, or feeling like, oh my gosh, I can do it all by myself. I don't need anybody. And with you talking about you wish you would have had a mentor, absolutely. Like get that help that you need. That's really important. Those of us who are more aware of energy and who are energy sensitive, we're all returning to this place of authenticity and to really reconnect with ourselves. And not that we haven't been doing that, but life does happen. Life gets in the way. And I feel like a lot of us are starting to feel that shift of just really go within and connect into our balance, into our heart, and what do we really, want to create here. And this can be what do we want to create in our life, but also what do we want to create for the world, which is, of course, we're talking about oracle decks, but of course, creation happens every day with our thoughts, with our feelings, new cycles that we enter into. And that leads me to this next question. I know that you offer a couple different ways to work with you, and I want to ask you what those are, but I will share my experience. So I did the done for you type of service, and it was really helpful because I had to make a lot of decisions that I wasn't even sure of. Like, what does this look like? What does this look like? What do the sides look like? And then I remember asking you, Anna, well, actually telling you, hey, I want them to be metallic. And then you said, okay, well, what color metallic? Do you want gold? Do you want pink? Do you want purple? And then you sent me like several options of purple that I didn't even know existed, or pink. And so there's a lot of these decisions that are helpful. And I hadn't even thought about like there's also a booklet. And then inside of the booklet, you're going to have layouts and cards, and there's just a lot that goes into it. And then even the size of the box, and then the code on the back of the box. There's a lot of things that are there. And so having a mentor can be really helpful for you to make these decisions. It reminds me of working with your spirit guides, where your spirit guides ask you, like, hey, what would you like to do? And you get to respond, yes, that feels good. No, that doesn't feel good. And then you can ask your spirit guides for help with something. Hey, I'd really like for help with XYZ. And they're like, okay, great, here's your options. So I will ask you both, what are the different ways on an overview basis that they can work with you?
Working with Anna is a lot like working with your spirit guides. That's true.
That's true.
I was just gonna say I totally feel that way. Like those are my favorite connections, and I've had people come to me saying, I appeared to them in a dream, or like even the way Heath and I connected, like it was like I appeared to him in a meditation. And I feel like sometimes, my soul does things while I'm sleeping. I travel and I and I think a lot of us do that. We might not always know it consciously, but um yeah, so thank you for that reflection. I think it's really fun. Heath, do you want me to share about the options, or did you want to?
Yeah, go ahead.
Right now, we basically have three levels, three tiers that we offer. And so it started as the mastermind, basically the fusion between the done for you and the DIY, which was I was already doing before. Now we basically have all three options. So if you feel like, you just want the process, you just want guidance, like step by step, you just want to learn the process and do it on your own, and we have a DIY option where you get access to all of our course materials, all of our resources, all the self-study materials, basically. But it doesn't include any personalized guidance from us. The second level would be the mastermind, which includes, everything, all the course materials, plus access to personalized guidance from us. So we have a community space where you can ask questions 24/7. Heath and I will usually respond within about 24 hours, often sooner. And then other community members can chime in as well and give their feedback. And then we have live calls, group calls every month, like usually several times a month. We have like one dedicated Q&A group call where we just come together. Everyone can share some updates, and then they can share a question, and we'll respond. So we just help you really customize the process and help you break through any of the blockages that come up along the way, and it just creates this beautiful synergy in the space as well. Just through even inspiration and holding space for each other. So that's a big part. And we're always developing new resources. Heath is really good at creating tools really quickly, like programming things like a 3D mock-up tool where you can put your card design in, it'll show you what it's going to look like, even physically, even before you get the first physical sample printed, which I think is so cool. You can actually get that one for free. Yeah, things like that, or calculators, for calculating your Kickstarter funding goal. And we do a lot of Kickstarter reviews where we break down the campaign and highlight, what this creator is doing well, and this is where we could improve. And, we can see pretty quickly, usually, if a campaign is not getting funded, like why that is the case, and what, some really simple shifts usually that they could make to make a big difference. Yeah, but to sum it up, so that is the mastermind container. If you're at a level where you want personalized support, but there's a certain part that you want to do yourself, maybe you're managing the project yourself, you can even get done for you support in there as well. It's not going to be managed by us, but we connect you with an artist, for example, or a graphic designer or an editor, like anything that you need hands-on support with, we can recommend someone. And or sometimes, somebody else in the community might have a connection that would be helpful as well. So yeah, it's very flexible in that way. You can really just, in a way, piece it together in the way that you need it to feel most optimally supported. And then the highest level of support would be what you did with me, Whitney. So it's a complete done for you project from start to finish. We do everything for you in-house. And yeah, so we start with like the vision when we first get on a call together, then we create to get a customized package for you based on exactly what you want to create, the type of art, the design, we help you create the content, edit it for you, and then we help you get it printed, like prepare it for publishing, and also set up the logistics, if you want like a third party fulfillment service or something like that. like all the shipping systems and everything. So it just helps to fast track the process. And yeah, again, we can, help you customize your launch plan and all those things as well. But that would really be for, yeah, for someone who's already got a foundation in their business. Usually, I think that level of support, I wouldn't necessarily, I mean, there's always exceptions, but I would say usually this would work best for someone who's already got an established business and an audience. And so the foundation to actually, so you can move fast enough. So it's actually, it's not going to take years for you to, yeah, really see any payoff for that kind of work.
One thing that is big about the community and mastermind section, and you'll see around the internet with different types of coaching groups or courses or anything out there, there's a format sometimes where it's like you're coming in and it's just, oh, for the next 6 weeks we're all doing this together and then we're done. What we found is the impossibility in giving real support in that, because if you are creating or going through the process of creating Oracle or Tarot or an affirmation card deck or a game, whatever it may be, everybody just has a completely different life situation and working speed. And it doesn't make sense to really pressurize everyone into this one ideal container of, we're going to run you through this like a horse race or whatever. And then at the end of it, there's no support really left because the time ended, but you can like have resources or whatever it might be. The group that we built is really built structurally to have consistent support over a long period of time. We offer lifetime access right now, which is, I don't know if we'll always be doing that, but we have lifetime access, and that means that you can come in at your pace, and we see a difference in everybody's pace. But there's no pressure there. I think a little bit of the pressure is good to show up, but that's why we're accountable for each other. So that's kind of the way that the mastermind is set up.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. I think that's helpful for people who are watching as far as, what might be the best fit for them energetically, but also what they're looking for. And so anybody that signs up with my link, which is messengerofspirit.com/create my deck, there's going to be some bonuses depending on which option you choose. So check the links below to find the bonuses. And some of the bonuses are some live calls with me one-on-one. So thank you so much for all this beautiful insight. And I think what would be really good to wrap this up is to pull some oracle cards. All right. Why don't we all pull a card for what people need to know right now? I think that might be helpful. Like, let's just pull one card that represents what people need to know right now who are watching this video. Anything
Sounds
specifically?
awesome. So we each pull a card from our decks, from one of our decks.
Yeah, you can pull it from whatever deck you want, and one fell out. So I'm using I'm using my deck, but I'm laughing because this just came on out. And when that happens, it's oftentimes that's the message. Sometimes it's not, but more than not, it is. So the message that I have here is from the Messenger of Spirit Oracle deck, and it is the channeler. You can see that. So this
Pretty.
is your body is intuitive and listen to it. So while you've been watching, pay attention to how your body is responding. Is your body are you excited? Do you have a lot of energy? Are you feeling there's some resistance going on? And that's going to give you that main message. But with a channeler, it's important to act fast and don't ignore, because you don't want energy to just be stored in your body. You want to express it. So if you get that nudge energetically to go ahead and go to the link and sign up, or start working on your creative ideas for your deck, or, I'm going to go pull my own cards out of a deck right now, whatever that is, go for it. This is the message to really listen to it if you want to change. So that's what Spirit said. Now I'm going to go to you, Anna. Do you have a card from your deck that you want to pull?
Thank you so much for that message, Whitney. I feel like it really resonates with a lot of kind of what I've been tapping into on my own journey recently, kind of reconnecting with the intuitive wisdom that speaks through the body. I'm just going to pull a card from my newest deck, the Oracle of the Magical Fairy Forest. And it is, well, always a welcome message. It's infinite abundance. You are divinely supported. Open your arms to receive. I mean, this is a reminder that we can't get often enough, but I think that's, yeah, especially I think right now in the collective, there's a lot of that, there's a lot of that scarcity energy or a lot of fear in general. Like there's a lot of, I would say, the shadows of the 3D coming to light, which is, nothing negative. It's all part of the collective process of healing and stepping into a new world together, creating something new. But the message here is not to get stuck there. So, things come to awareness, but ultimately we get to remember that we are the creators of our own reality and we're always connected to, something bigger beyond our little human selves as well. And just, yeah, keeping, reminding like that reminder is really important, bringing ourselves back to that. And so, whatever it is that you may want to create, whether it's a card deck, an oracle deck, a tarot deck, something in your business that you want to step into, or something important in your life, an important life change, and maybe there's a fear of not being supported, or there's like thoughts around, scarcity or anything like that. Just bringing yourself back to the truth that you are fully supported. And if you don't know where to start, just ask and open. All you really need to do is ask and receive. That's a message I got a long time ago that's been coming back to me again and again. It can be that simple, and pathways open up, and you might be surprised at, what magic and miracles happen, to come and support you as long as you're open and willing to be open to receiving.
I love that. I actually got that card not too long ago, Anna, so I'm not surprised it popped in here today. That's a great card to get too.
Really pretty. I mean, they all are, but that one's it's really pretty. All right,
All
I'll
right,
pick one from
Heath.
my third affirmation deck just because it's more direct. And then I'll do one from the Beasties, but I won't actually I think the Beasties is just going to be for whoever sees it to internalize on their own. This is actually this one's pretty perfect. So I rage into a rampage of all that I want. These are elephants splashing around in a puddle on the front, and there's some words in there: dreams, creations, desires, loves. You are the first to birth your destiny, a unique journey of mystical doors, spellbinding interactions, and fantastical adventure awaits you. It's all for you, infinite and overflowing with exhilaration and abundance. If you know you want something, why not go straight to it? Why are you messing around? You wouldn't have the desire within you if you didn't have the ability to taste and achieve it. It's time to drop off your inner amateur at the gallows and turn pro. Get dirty and stampede into your future like a bundle of baby elephants splashing around in the river. When you're authentic with your fascinations, existence becomes effortless. Be real, not perfect. Have fun because it feels good. The world is beautiful and you do have time. So I
That's
think
pretty
that fits our
perfect.
messaging pretty good. Yeah.
It does, especially with imposter syndrome. Like, no, leave the amateur at the door and we're gonna go
Yeah.
pro. We're gonna do this. We've got everything that we need.
That's a card I don't
Beautiful.
draw that often out of that deck, so that's cool. And then for the from the Beasties, let's see, we got the Jaguar, which
Oh,
this is number
mhm.
27. This is the Jaguar. I'll just let everyone internalize this how you will. But there's some power in looking into the eyes of the Jaguar.
Mhm. That's a really great message in itself, too. It's beautiful. I love the colors.
The
Yeah.
jaguar was a really important ally for me in the beginning of my spiritual awakening. And I connected it. I think I got a message from somebody else I was working with who maybe pulled that card for me, like not from this deck, obviously, but a different deck. And it was like that quantum leaping energy into well, not just, a new reality in my life, but it has to do with consciousness as well. How we can make big shifts through leaps in consciousness and then like leaping in our personal lives as well. But that's what that reminds me of.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It's a lot
Yeah,
of forward thinking and forward, like you said, leaps, and also leap of faith too. What were you going to say, Heath?
I was just going to read the affirmation that accompanies it. There's a lot in the guidebook, but the affirmation that accompanies the Jaguar card is I am the pulse of God. I dance in the world between shadow and moonlight. Synchronicity is my nature.
All right. Well, thank you both so much for being here. I know this has been really helpful for everybody who's been wanting to bring their creation to life. And thanks for giving more insight into what the process entails. But also, thanks for sharing some messages from Spirit that I know were peppered through this entire talk, and people really need to hear whatever they needed to hear. So, thank you so much for that. And everybody watching, you can find my link below. Check out the bonuses if you feel called to work with Anna and Heath. I highly recommend them. I know that really it felt so great to get my creation out into the world. And if you feel that inside, then blessings to you on your path. I know that it's meant to be. And thank you so much. Thank you, Anna and Heath, for being here.
Thank you so much, Whitney. And this was so much fun, and I'm so glad we came together to co-create this. I feel like, yeah, what you said, I feel like there's a lot of little messages sprinkled in here that wanted to flow through all of us today. So that's a really big part of the magic, and it was really beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
All
Long live
right.
the magic that we all make.
Heck yeah, I can get on board with that. All right. Bye for now.